Hello. So here we are, once again, doing a little blind tasting. I am very excited to see Jordyn coming on any minute here. I love it that she's challenged me for a little rematch. This is going to be fun. You know, it's not too often that I get to do very much blind tasting these days because I'm mostly just hanging out here at home and not out there with all the other sommeliers doing their tasting. So any minute here, Jordyn's going to come on and we'll see what she's got. So hello to all of you. Have any of you guys been on the on these blind tastings before? Were you on last time to see what we did? Let me know what you thought. And who do you think is going to win this time? You know, blind tasting is oh, and there's Jordyn. Go. You know, blind tasting is something that you know, sommeliers all do, and there's a lot. Hey, there she is.
Oh.
So Jordyn, thank you for the challenge back. This is going to be good.
Yes, indeed.
Excellent. So I was just telling everyone about blind tasting, and you know, one of the reasons that we do it, it's obviously practical reasons, but it's also something that's part of the sommelier exam. It's part of the sommelier exam through the Court of Master Sommeliers, and it's also something that you see in other sommelier exams, whether it be through, just trying to think of the Sommelier Foundation or Masters of Wine exam. There's all of the exams have some blind tasting component, and there's lots of reasons why, and I'll let Jordyn explain a little bit more about the practical application of blind tasting. But in the exam, like to become a master sommelier, there's 4 different levels of exams, and the top 3 or the last 3 exams all include blind tasting. And in that, and there's other portions of the exam as well, but for the blind tasting, you're actually tasting through a series of wines, blind, not like you're blindfolded, but blind meaning that you are, you know, you're given some wines and you have a set amount of time, and you're spending that time talking about what the wines look like and smell like and taste like, and pulling out all of these different clues as to what could possibly be in the glass. And you know, it's something that just takes a lot of practice. It's a pretty fun thing to practice because it involves a lot of wine tasting and wine drinking and a love of wine, and which you and I share, Jordyn. But it's also a combination of not just really developing a strong sensory evaluation and understanding how to explain what those wines look like, smell like, and taste like, but then be able to deduce from those clues, like what possible grape varietal could this be? You know, what are, you know, where in the world where would, you know, like if you get a clue that tells you something like, I think that's Cabernet based on this one flavor profile. Like, okay, well, where would Cabernet classically grow, and you know, what kind of climate would make it taste like that? So it's really a mixture of the theory and then also like, what does it actually taste like? So it's difficult. It's really difficult. It takes a lot of practice, but I always say it's kind of like learning a language. Like, you know, over time you start to really develop the language of describing what you're smelling and tasting, and then pretty soon you start to really be able to go on with understanding how those things match up with what might possibly be in the glass. So Jordyn, tell us why do we do this? Why do we do this to ourselves?
Well, I think there's a slight insanity, but mostly passion behind why we are in this crazy world of wine. But for a practical application, blind tasting, as you develop your vocabulary for describing the different elements that you are smelling or tasting in wine, it allows you the vocabulary to explain to other professionals, whether you're out at dinner or going to a wine shop and wanting to explain what you do, or just as importantly, what you don't like in a wine. So when you discover the words for what you are sensing on your palate, it allows you to really discover wines, whether they're from new regions or new places that people can find that meet you where you're at. I think as a wine professional, we're never looking to, you know, get crazy weird and wild with everyone when you might be looking for something similar to your favorite bottle of wine. So blind tasting really allows you to start igniting those senses in a way to arm you with talking to, whether it's your friends, your families, or professionals well. Yeah. And I think an important thing is too, I've had a lot of guests tell our sommelier team at Esquire that, oh, I could never blind taste wine, and I could never taste all of those things. I don't have a good palate. And I think something that is important to remember is that, just like exercising, running a marathon, if you've never ran before, you're not going to open that door and run for miles. So it is a sensory that can be developed and grown, but it has to be nurtured and it has to be pursued. So I don't believe anyone has a bad palate. It's just hasn't been as exercised as it could be.
Yeah, I think that's really true. And I think, to your point about, learning how to distinguish those flavors over time, I think everybody, the first time they're blind tasting, goes, I don't know, it smells like wine. And then over time, you're like, well, it smells kind of citrusy. And then eventually you're like, well, it smells more like grapefruit than lemon, or more like orange than lime. And then you start to kind of break down what those different aromas are, or, it's a kind of a language of what things smell like. It takes a lot of practice, but I think, sommeliers, I think we're always going around smelling things and tasting things, and we get really curious about what things smell like in the world, and you start to, I think there's this nostalgic thing that happens too with scent. Like an example for me is Gewürztraminer. It reminds me of my grandma, because my grandma used to wear this rose perfume, and it's very nostalgic. And I'm sure you've got wines that have that kind of emotional connection, or something that's very personal. There's a scent trigger that happens where you're like, I know exactly what that smell is.
Absolutely. And one of those elements, if there are anyone watching this that wants to start heightening your senses, even just taking an extra 4 or 5 seconds when you're taking a bite of something that you absolutely love, or you're cooking something over the stove, taking a few seconds to smell it and allow your senses to categorize that scent smell in your memory bank. Because when we start studying smells in wine, it starts with just acknowledging what we already know, and that practice of connecting a picture to a smell, it's something our brain isn't used to all of the time. So whether it's smelling onions when you're about to cook pasta sauce, or orange in the grocery store, those little elements are going to train your brain to start connecting those dots.
I know a personal scent association that you have with wine, and it involves a certain type of dog treat.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
What was it? Bag strips? You're like, this wine smells like bag strips.
Bag strips, yes. And they were so popular in the 90s and early 2000s. Remember, it even came with these dog treats that even came with this little dog dispenser, and you open the head and it would be like bacon strips. Bacon strips. So for me, a lot of New World Syrah reminds me of bacon strips.
I mean, it's a smell that will haunt you forever, right? It's really funny. I love it. All right. So I have a wine for you in my glass, and I'm going to describe it for you. But first, since you're the challenger, what you got?
Okay. All right.
And just also to lay the groundwork for everybody, these are all Cooper's Hawk wines, but it could be any wine from any time, wine of the month, old wine, new wine, but all wines made under the Cooper's Hawk label. So you guys can play along. So listen to Jordyn's descriptions. She's going to describe this wine, what it looks like, smells like, tastes like, and we're not tasting it with her. We're going to try to guess what it is.
Yep. And one element that I wanted to add to, so when we're looking at these wines, there are kind of 4 things that you can kind of pinpoint that you're looking for, that if you narrow the thousands of possibilities, things that we look for in a wine, we're looking for what kind of floral scents there are, what kind of fruits we're smelling, what kind of herbs, what kind of earth, and if there's any spice. So there's usually four or five elements you can pull out. So it's not necessarily you're trying to name one of 1,000 possibilities, but kind of narrowing it down to if you have 4 or 5 markers, then you can have a direction and where to go. So we're not going to try to do too many things, but if we can at least find a few of those categories.
Those benchmarks.
Yes.
Cool.
Indeed. All right.
All
I
right.
have a red.
It's red. It's red wine.
It is a red wine. So this wine is kind of a, actually now this lighting here, it looked almost black, but I think this is the lighting. There we go. Now I can actually see what's in front of me. All right, so this here is a red wine. It is medium concentration. We've got a pale ruby to a pink rim happening, and the pink rim is kind of a little bit watery, so it's almost clear. No staining of the tears. The viscosity of the wine looks to be about medium, about medium on the nose.
All right, now stop there. I'm just going to explain what clues I'm getting so far from what you've said. So let's see, you talked about it being kind of medium in color, so probably not too saturated, and having that pale ruby rims, that tells me that it's something youthful. No staining in the tears, that tells me it's probably not from a hot climate. So wines that are like super intense, like that Shiraz you did last time, had some staining in the tears, really hot place, and it, like you see like dark purple coming down. So a couple little clues there. Not a huge amount of information, but it's a start. All right, what does it smell like?
All right. On the nose, it is youthful. The aromas that are coming out of the glass are very bright and vibrant. I'm getting some really nice floral components, some violets, some purple flowers. I am getting cherries, cranberries, but they're kind of more of the black cherries. It's not just white sour cherries. They're a little bit more intense. Okay. Definitely get some raspberry happening here. For herb characters, I get a little rosemary, maybe a touch of oregano in there. And earth isn't too aggressive, but I definitely get a little bit of that kind of crushed fall leaves, a little forest floor in there.
Okay.
And for the spice component, I'm definitely getting a little bit of cinnamon, a little vanilla, coffee grounds. Moving on.
Okay, so I'm picking up a few things on her descriptions of the aromas, and most of those really unique flavor components you get off of the nose. There are certain things you cannot smell. You can't smell acid, you can't smell alcohol, you can't smell tannin, you can't smell sugar, temperature, all those things. And so she'll describe that and also see if what she tastes reflects what she smells. Sometimes wines taste really different than they smell, and sometimes they taste exactly the way they smell. So, what does it taste like?
On the palate, confirming the red fruits, definitely black cherry, a little bit more of a black raspberry, but there's also some black currant. There's a little bit of tartness coming through here, and confirming the herb characteristics, definitely that rosemary, oregano, and that vanilla, coffee bean, really well-rounded, very integrated spice notes that are coming through here. The body is medium. Acid is also medium, hinging on a little medium plus. Complexity, definitely medium plus. The finish is also medium plus. Alcohol, medium.
Okay.
You need more than that?
Okay. All right. This is tough. So not super saturated in color. It's youthful. I've been hearing lots of red fruit. So all of this like raspberry, You said cranberry. So that kind of tangy red fruit is pretty distinctive. You mentioned black cherry, but you didn't really go into a lot of real dark black fruits, a lot of red fruit. It sounds like there's some pretty opulent oak on it. You're describing lots of like cinnamon and vanilla. So those are all flavors that come from oak. So that's distinctive. Let's see. On the palate, is the fruit more tart, ripe, dried, cooked?
Definitely a little bit more tart with a kiss of cook.
Okay, all right. So it sounds like it's something that's probably coming from a little bit of a cooler climate. So it kind of makes me think of something like Pinot Noir. It could be our like our Lux Pinot. So something that's because I know Pinot likes cooler climates. Let's see what else. You mentioned the florality. We don't have a whole lot else. I mean, Barbera is not a very big wine, but it's from such a warm climate. So I'm going to rule out Barbera. Our Lux Pinot definitely has some opulent oak, but it's not quite as vanilla-y as you're describing. And I tend to get our Lux Pinot tends to have a real tangy earthiness. Well, they did mention some earth. But you said there's a lot, like some pretty opulent oak, huh?
Yes, indeed, but you're absolutely right. There's still that earth component, little mushroomy forest floor.
Okay.
Elegant.
Is there anything like cola in it? Like cola nut, cherry cola?
So you know what? That is a marker that I have heard 1,000 times. Cola. Maybe it's because I am so not as familiar, but that is one marker that does not make sense in my brain.
It's not in your vernacular. It's okay. I get it.
Nope.
That's one of those things. Like it takes time to build up those languages. You just need to drink more Coke. drink cherry Coke.
So yeah, maybe, but this is where our descriptors might be the same thing but different words.
Yeah, it's really funny. Well, for me, cola is a marker that I get particularly off of wines out of a certain part of Sonoma. And I mean, there's an opulence to the wine that you're describing that doesn't quite feel like our Lux Pinot. It kind of makes me think of the collaboration Pinot that we did with Deloche. And that's why I was asking about the cola, but you're not helping me there. So I'm going to go out on a limb though. And I'm going to say it's Deloche Pinot. Okay. The Deloche collaboration de Trois.
Good. We'll have to see at the end here.
Okay. Very tough. It's very tough. Okay. Are you ready?
I am.
Okay. So I have a white wine. And on the site, this is a clear white wine. It's super pale straw in color with slight hints of green. It fades out to a super platinum, very watery rim. Really super low in pigmentation, no gas, no sediment, super brilliant, bright color. On the nose, it's extremely aromatic, lots of citrus. So I get lots of very intense, like lemon, lemongrass, lemon lime, even grapefruit. It's very green overall. Lots of super tart Granny Smith apple. It's like biting into a green apple and getting the bitterness from the skin. Very grassy. There's gooseberry. I mean, everything I'm describing is green, and that's what this wine smells like. There's no evidence of oak. It's really all about this super vibrant fruit. In terms of non-fruit aromas, there's that grass. Maybe a little hint of white flowers, but super bright, super fresh, super clean, very vibrant. There's not really any earthiness, kind of like a wet stones, almost like what it smells like when the sidewalk gets wet after it rains. It's like subtle, stony, mineral smell, but that's about it. It's this wine is like electric and so delicious, super vibrant, really Beautiful, luscious citrus, bold, intense, lemon, lime, grapefruit, grass, gooseberry, really yummy things. Super green apple, like I was describing. Biting into a green apple, that's what this wine tastes like too. And there's definitely no evidence of oak. It's just a super youthful, and there's not really a lot of earthiness. This is just about really youthful, fresh, vibrant juice. So the acidity is, I'm going to go high. The alcohol is medium. The complexity is medium plus. And the finish is about medium plus.
Okay. Well, all of your fruit characteristics have me going in a couple directions. You said with your Granny Smith apple and a lot of citrus, this is having me look at grapes that are a little bit more fresh, bright, and naturally high in acidity. So kind of already going in the camp of possibly Pinot Gris, Sauvignon Blanc, or unoaked Chardonnay could go down that route as well. But I think that your notes of gooseberry and a little grass, it sounds like it's still very soft. It's not something that's crazy aggressive, but still zippy and fresh is what I'm getting from your description. Yeah. High acid, and that has me going, we've got a few directions we can go in with Cooper's Hawk wines. Our Pinot Gris, I think, is a little quieter. Of all that citrus and Granny Smith apple. Torontes, I think that could be a little too floral. You didn't mention a lot of flower characteristics that would have me running towards South America, but I think that your citrus characteristics are leading me towards Sauvignon Blanc. So I'm going to guess the Cooper's Hawk Classic Sauvignon Blanc.
All right. Well, I think there's a lot of people agreeing with you here. I see lots of comments coming through. Lots of people are guessing Sauvignon Blanc. Shall we reveal?
We shall.
All right. So everybody, what do you think the red was? I saw a mix of things. I saw some Cab Zin votes. I saw some Pinot votes. Nobody else seems to agree with me on it being that wine of the month from a while ago, but we'll see. Let's see.
Got some good feedback here.
So a question about whether that now this is about our ability, to also describe wine. Yeah, it is. This is really hard. It's really hard to describe, listening to somebody else describe a wine and trying to guess what the flavors are, because we work on speaking the same language, but it's we have different palates, and so it gets tricky. All right. What's our red?
Yes, that's a good guess. All right. Crazy enough, I think I have the last bottle of Pinot Noir in the entire company.
That's amazing. I thought that wine was super yummy. It was so juicy, so luscious, and I was just thinking, I've had WOMs on the brain, or wines of the month on the brain. So I was just thinking about that wine today. It's so delicious, and that wine was really a bit different from our Pinots in that it was just so luscious, and there was a lot of oak on it, a lot more oak than we use on our regular even our Lux Pinot. We tend to have a very restrained use of oak on our wines overall. So that's what happens with these collaborations. We end up with other people's impressions.
Well, that's amazing, because I thought Esquire, we found a case and had one case that we were just hoarding all to our little selves and sold out of. So that is just amazing, because I've been saving this bottle for a long time for something like this.
All right, raise the bottle again. I see somebody who lost us on audio. It's our collaboration Trois, right? Collaboration Trois with JCB. So with Jean-Charles Boisset, we do so much fun stuff with JCB. We've got a collaboration coming up for our July wine of the month with Jean-Charles again. It's actually a super fun wine. It's called Liberté, and it's going to be a combination of French and American grapes. And it's cool. It's a really fun wine. It's one that we, to be honest with you, always struggled with it because it just with all of the shutdown, just getting the wine from France has been really challenging. But it's going to happen, and it's coming out. So and we have a really fun event coming up with JCB as well. We're going to do a live virtual tasting with Jean-Charles and Tim, and we're going to do a really fun box of goodies for you to eat along with it. It'll be really cool. I'm excited for that to come out. So, you want to see what I got?
All right, I'm excited. Do we have any other guesses? I saw someone mention Cooper's Hawk White. That was a fair.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a fair possibility as well. It's a good guess.
It is a good guess. It's a nice, light, bright, fresh wine. It is, but you're dead on. I mean, the descriptors, things like when you're talking about things like gooseberry and grass and grapefruit, there's kind of no other wine it could be than Sauvignon Blanc. This one, though, is a bit more vibrant than our Sauvignon Blanc. It's the Chilean Sauvignon Blanc.
Oh, so, I have known. Oh.
So yeah, I dug into my WOM collection as well, my Wine of the Month collection.
Love that.
But good job. Good job.
And you know what? I tasted that a few days ago because I wanted to. It's so funny. You taste something and sometimes you just forget, because I wanted to be able to describe what's the difference between our regular Sauv Blanc and this Sauvignon Blanc. And I definitely get so much more zippy grapefruit in the Chilean. And even though to me, there's a little hint of passion fruit in there as well, or a green pineapple.
Totally. And even like jalapeno, there's this green kind of bell peppery kind of thing in there that's just is so intense. This is this is the wine of the summer. I want to drink it every day, every hot day. I did see a question out there about Camille. The next wine, Camille Proud, is going to be released in July. So we decided to hold back a little bit when we can at least get closer to all drinking it together, which, hopefully by the time that wine comes out, our restaurants are all open and we'll be partying. Yeah.
Maybe.
So,
well, I think this definitely, I know I hinted at it earlier, but now we must. How about a bonus round?
Okay. Yeah.
Now,
you said you might have something up your sleeve for me.
Yes. And
another Cooper's Hawk wine?
It is not a Cooper's Hawk
wine.
So the world has opened up immensely.
Okay.
But I believe in you. And
is this a wine from Esquire?
It is something that we have on our list at Esquire, yes.
So now my range of selections goes from 65 to 1,500.
There we go. But 1,500, that's how many grapes Italy has alone. So really.
It's true.
All right.
All right.
Are you ready, miss?
I am.
This is also a red wine.
Okay, well, I'm halfway there.
All right. So this is a red wine with medium concentration. This is a little different than the first. Rather than the pink and red that we were seeing the first time around, this is actually a little bit more garnet colored to more of an orange rim. And with the tears, it's about medium plus viscosity with the tears. No staining whatsoever. Okay, so the clues that I've gotten so far from what she just described, there's not a whole lot there. Talking about that garnet rim. So there's two things that could be. One, I see somebody comment, so it's aged a bit. That's one possibility. So there's some oxidation. So either the wine is older because the wines start to turn from more that pink, red color, purple color, and they start to get more brown as they age. But it could also be an oxidative varietal. So there are some varieties like Nebbiolo, Sangiovese tend to be really oxidative, so that they can be really young but still kind of get that kind of orangey color to it. And there's not a whole lot of other clues. There's no staining, so it's not like it's coming from a super hot place, but it's still pretty wide open. All right, I need more information. Great. So on the nose, this wine is clean and sound. I would not ask you a dirty wine. So first thing that jumps out at me is a little bit more of hay and leather and dust. And I get some floral components jumping out at me, but rather than fresh flowers, it's crushed, dried roses. It is something you left in the window for 14 days past the time that it died. But that's giving it some nice complexity to where we're getting...
Is it like an old prom corsage?
Yes, and yes, it's been 3 months and you're not ready to throw that away.
Okay, I know that smell well.
Definitely spice components here. You're getting a lot of dried thyme, oregano, definitely some rosemary in there. And for the spice components, I'm getting that it's not so much the vanilla, but more so cinnamon and cardamom and much more softer spices than we were speaking of before. Fruit, this is now, rather than the first and primary thing that hit me in the face, this is more of the third thing that I'm kind of coming towards, where it's a bit more plummy, but it's more cooked plums. They have been sitting on the stove for the last 45 minutes, and we're getting apricots. I'm getting definitely a little cranberry as well, but it's more cranberry tea and cranberry jam, if you will.
Okay.
Earth, definitely some dirt, some fresh dirt. You just grabbed a handful in your garden, maybe sprayed a little hose water on there, so you're getting that sense of place. You can kind of smell the earth coming alive and just giving you a big giant hug. Let's see if it tastes that way.
All right.
All right. So on the palate, definitely confirming really well integrated leather, oregano, tarragon, cranberry, sour cherries are kind of jumping at me as well, but they're again down. Red plums, they're not purple ripe plums. They're again more compote-y, kind of baked into this cinnamon and cardamom, a little anise. Very, very elegant, soft. The alcohol here is medium. The acid is medium plus, raging on high, and tannins are also medium plus. Long finish. Complexity is medium plus.
Okay. Okay, you actually gave me a lot of really great clues here. So, so you described a lot of things in the wine. So the things that I gravitated to in this, I mean, the first thing you mentioned, I think, was leather, which to me is, well, you talk about leather and you talk about all these other really earthy things. So it's to me, it's really clearly an old world wine. I always say, like, when tasting wine, like if the first things you're getting are earthiness, then it's more likely to be old world. And if the first thing that you're getting are a lot of fruitiness, it's more likely new world. There's lots of exceptions to that rule. And then there's some other things. So we've got the color and then the leather, which to me, like, Italian wines always have this kind of leather component to them. And then there's a few other things. So I'm just thinking about, like, classic Italian wines, because certainly, I mean, there's a lot of wines in Italy, but I also know in Esquire, this is me gaming it, I know that you've got like a lot of really incredible, super classic wines there. There's not a lot of, like, there's some kind of wacky off the beaten path stuff, but you go deep into the classics. Crimson stuff, that might be where I'm going as well, and Mary. Yeah, so there's like, you've got, so you mentioned sour cherry and dried flowers, which are, to me, are things that you get in Sangiovese, lots of sour cherry in that. You also get a lot of it in Nebbiolo. Like, to me, Nebbiolo is just like haunting. It's got that sour cherry and rose petal. There's like this kind of like balsamic aroma. but Nebbiolo to me is like a lot of tannin. You said medium plus tannin. So I actually might have gone Nebbiolo, but and then also the acid, like they both have a lot of acid. And you also mentioned anise, and like to me, like star anise or like what's the candy? Good and Plenty. Good and Plenty. I always get that off of Sangiovese. So yeah, it kind of sounds like Chianti to me. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Chianti. Maybe like, okay, let me give you a vintage. Okay, okay, let's see. Hard to say, wow, so hard to say without tasting it. Yeah, let's see. We definitely have some oxidation. There's a little bit of age there. Something like Chianti might be a couple years old, but by the time it gets to the States and is in release, but what year is this? 2020? Hard to forget that. I'm going to say it's 2017.
All right.
I don't know. What is it?
So you are absolutely correct in the fact that it is Sangiovese, but it is not Chianti. So this is a Brunello.
Ah, all right. Well, calling Tuscany is like calling California. Sangiovese or Chianti's a little bit broader, but Brunello, I mean, this is like the peak of pinnacle of Napa Valley. I mean, that is super high quality stuff. You know what? I see Pla answering here. Pla, one of your sommeliers. She actually threw out the name of the producer when you were describing the site of the wine. She knew what the wine was right away. That's pretty impressive.
We're pretty passionate about this producer, so
that wine's delicious. Now you're actually pouring this wine at the restaurant, right?
Yeah, so at the restaurant in Chicago, because I know this is unique for those of you that haven't been to Esquire yet, we actually do wine pairings that are non-Cooper's Hawk wine. And so Argiano is a super, super old school producer in Tuscany, and we pair it with our bone-in filet. So kind of, you know, taking that old world feel and wanting to kind of transport you into, you know, going into so much history here. Our desire at Esquire is to be able to take people down a journey to where, you know what, you might try something new, maybe learn a little history, but at the end of the day, we want to introduce you to something a little fun and maybe a little.
Yeah. And you've got this on a flight, right? No, there's two other wines in the flight?
Yes. So we have a specific menu that's only available at Esquire, our elevated menu selections that are paired with 3 wines. One will be a Cooper's Hawk wine, and then we'll pair it with 2 other wines from around the world. So we have Syrah flight right now that focuses on Syrah in Australia, and France, and the US. We'll do a Riesling flight that we can touch on. Well, currently our Riesling flight is touching on New World Riesling here in the US. We have one from Michigan, we have one from Washington, we have one from New York. So also with this guy here, some of you are probably familiar with our Cooper's Hawk Tuscan. So
yes,
this is in a lineup with Argiano, which is one of the oldest producers in Tuscany that kind of introduced a lot of people into the world of classic Sangiovese in this region. And in Brunello too, you want to talk about too, like what does Brunello mean? Like why doesn't it say Sangiovese on the label? Like how do we even know?
That's the thing about Europe is you have to know what they grow in the place to know what the wine is, and grape isn't so as important as the places. It's like Bordeaux, you know, people don't think about Bordeaux and go, oh, it's Cabernet. They think about Bordeaux as Bordeaux, or Burgundy as Burgundy. Yeah.
And that's like, and we see that in Champagne a lot, where, you know, Champagne is more so a place. In the US, we kind of throw the word champagne around.
Yeah.
But in these old worlds, they're very, very proud of their place. And that's one thing that I think is unique with Italy. If it says the word Brunello, it's always Sangiovese. It's never something sneaky, always Sangiovese. And you don't have as strict, tight rules here. We kind of go all over the place in the US, which allows for a lot of creativity and fun discovery. lot of weird things out there in
Yeah.
in an artistic way, but there are some regions, especially in Italy, especially in France, that are very classic, and they're so proud of that, and it's beautiful to be
Yes.
able to introduce everyone to it.
I love Italy. It's actually, I spent a lot of my career initially going to France and really spending a lot of time in those regions. But in the last 10 years, I've spent way more time in Italy, and I love it. And I can't wait to go back. I'm hoping that our wine club trip is going to take us there this year. Hopefully it doesn't cancel. But yeah. But if it does, we'll go next year. I mean, we'll go next year anyway. We do.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
absolutely crazy that it's already June. What's
I
happening?
know. I know. Well, luckily we have a lot of really fun things coming up that are going to allow us to hang out together virtually, if not in person. We've got some really fun programs that we're working on, and we've got some winemaker events coming up. And we've got some really cool collaborations where we're hoping to do some virtual events and some special food items to go with them, so that all of you can hang out with us and meet our winemakers and see the other stuff that we're working on, and eventually we'll slowly start folding that back into what we do in the restaurants, which would be really good.
We're almost there.
We're almost there. Exactly. Well, thank you for this, Jordyn. This was really fun. If any of you have any more questions about blind tasting or what we're doing here, or questions about Cooper's Hawk, any of that, feel free to shoot them out there, and we'll answer them if we can. And if not, we'll pawn you off on somebody who can. But yeah, so Esquire, it looks like you guys have been busy down there, and it's exciting to see the team still coming together. It's a smaller community, but you have a really great team of people down there in Esquire, and along with the teams that we have in all of our Cooper's Hawk around the country.
Yeah, I know all of us at our locations are excited to open the doors and get back to the new normal. I know none of us are that is even yet, but
yeah.
At the end of the day, we're discovering this together. We're taking it day by day. So I think as long as people have an open mind and patience in their heart, we're going to get through this just fine.
We will. And I see some questions here. I see Jerry and Mike. Hello. I see you're drinking some great Burgundy over there. And I see some questions about when we're going to be opening. You know, it's coming really soon, really soon. We have a couple of restaurants that are starting with some outdoor dining. I think within the next couple of weeks here, very soon, and then it's just going to go from there. You know, as far as opening up another restaurant like Esquire, there's nothing else planned. The Esquire is very unique. It's a very special tribute to the world of wine, and you know, maybe someday we will we will do another Esquire style restaurant in Miami or New York. Who knows? But we're gonna let Esquire kind of hang at the top of the pyramid for a while. So yeah.
And I did see a question when Illinois is opening outdoor dining, and that's another element as well that we're, as a company, I really appreciate that we're sensitive to. Next weekend and the next 7 to 10 days, a lot of Chicago and Illinois will start opening back up. As far as when we are as a location, you know, I know that we're going to be very intentional about keeping in contact with members and communicating that way, but also being intentional that we don't open too quickly. The worst thing that can happen is that we open so fast that something happens to where we have to shut down, or, you know, we want to do this really wisely. And I just really appreciate how much Tim's taking that intention to look out for every single guest that's walking through that door. So we're going to be in a place that we can be in it for the long haul and not open too fast without knowing what's ahead of us. So we're not going to be the first ones out the gate that are going to be having the swarms on our patios, but when we do, I look forward to being able to welcome everyone and just be patient with us. You know?
Yeah, it's a new frontier. It's a definitely very different for all of us right now, but we're doing the best we can. So yeah, well, thank you again. This was a lot of fun. Jordyn, I think we're gonna have to do this again. Maybe next month we'll challenge you with some fun category like bubbles.
Ooh, that is a tricky world.
Yeah.
How do you blind bubbles?
It's different. It's different. Lots of unique winemaking techniques that give you clues. Plus, I really love bubbles, I think, as everybody already knows. So, yeah, that'll be fun. All right. Well, cheers. Thanks for the challenge. Thanks
Cheers.
for the great wines. Bye.
Bye.